Kia ora koutou 179202 students. In this PowerPoint, I'm going to give you a brief introduction to a literature review. So now that we have a research question or a research aim, we need to think about getting more information really from previous research about our topic. Sometimes we do that before we've developed the research question, or we do a bit of both. So it's not like it's absolutely linear that I need to have my research question before I read the literature. Often we read literature and then we identify gaps in that literature or previous research, and then that stimulates us to develop a research question that we then want to investigate. So it's not completely kind of step one, step two. Sometimes the literature comes before the development of the research question and then comes afterwards as well. So I'm going to talk to you a bit about what a literature review is. So when we're thinking about a literature review, which is a structured and quite in-depth consideration of previous research evidence that relates to our research topic that we're wanting to explore, we do a review of what's already been published. So it is about published research, and it's usually about academic research. So we're less interested in informal writing. Not to say that that doesn't have its place, but when we're doing a literature review, we're thinking about published research, and usually research that has been peer reviewed. So that means that other experts have cast their eye over the writing and they have deemed that it is robust in terms of the research process that was followed, and also in terms of the evidence that then has been written about in that particular publication. The purpose of a literature review is to gather the key ideas and themes that have already been published about a topic, and in doing that we synthesize it. So we pull out the key ideas and then we summarize it, but we do more than that. We actually critique it and we think about it in terms of how does the different evidence, how does it compare with each other? How does it contrast? What are some of the key ideas or themes that are coming through the different publications, so that we can start to see those connections, but also potentially draw conclusions or identify some gaps where maybe we might want to slot our research. So I've got here some examples of published research, and certainly for us who are involved in this space, we are wanting to publish our research in peer-reviewed journals. So that's where we put in a journal article and it gets sent off to some other academics somewhere, and they come back with some feedback and are usually quite robust in that process, and then we might need to do some further work on our publication before it's accepted for publication. Sometimes we can put in a journal article and it may come back, the reviewers may come back and go, this is not relevant for this particular journal that we've submitted to, or they might think that actually our research isn't really robust enough or fit enough for publication at all. So we're also involved in that with other people. So every year I'd probably review maybe 5 or 6 different journal articles in different journals and also contribute to that process. So it's a little bit arbitrary, I guess, in terms of it depends who you get as your reviewer as to maybe how robust they are or how critical they are. But I think it is a worthwhile process, and that can help strengthen the final publications if they are published. I've given you a couple of examples of some good journals there, and we do need to be thinking about this as academic publications, and that's what we're wanting to focus on primarily in our literature review. Sometimes we might also need to have a look at what we call grey literature, so that's kind of hasn't been through that rigorous peer-reviewed process, but it may be in terms of policy documents or legislation. May be appropriate for us to be critiquing blogs, for example, or utilising ideas that come from blogs or other social media. We wouldn't generally draw on Wikipedia. Maybe sometimes you know, journal articles from magazines or articles from magazines, maybe ones that again are quite reputable, like North and South, for example. So the literature review itself is gathering together the key sources of literature that relates to our research topic. So that's that whole idea about past research findings to direct and improve future research. It may also give us some ideas about the variables or the different components of our research, and also help us to think about it in terms of theory. So what has previous research looked at in terms of theoretical perspectives? And then what might we want to draw on in our research, or how might we want to contrast that and maybe look at other theories that could also relate to that as well. So an example of that, at the moment I'm I've been doing some research with another academic from AUT, and we're looking at this idea of well-being of work integrated learning students while they have their placement. And we've been looking at different theories that we could use to, I guess, provide a framework for our research. And we are interested in social constructivist theory, which basically suggests that people have different views on a situation, but all of those views are valid in their way because they are coming from people's experiences. So that's a good theory that we could use to kind of guide how we're doing the research, but also then when we get to the analysis of the data stage as well. I'd really like you to pause now and just go into this YouTube clip. It should open for you. If it doesn't, there's a link there that you can copy and paste into your browser, and just gives you, it's just really short, but it just gives you a really nice summary of the purpose of the literature review. So just pause this now, move in and watch that, and then come on back. So when we're thinking about the literature review, we have to be quite clear about the search terms that we're going to use to actually get information or publications that are relevant for our topic. So sometimes that can mean that we might have some key search terms and we go searching, and we may find quite a lot of material on our topic, or we may find not very much at all. So we need to think about whether we might need to narrow our research topic or whether we might need to broaden it, especially if there isn't much previous research on our topic. Sometimes when we're doing that and when we're actually reading the sources that we are finding, that can also have an impact on our research question, and we may actually want the research question to evolve, particularly if we're doing qualitative research. We might think, oh, well, that was quite interesting what those people said. Maybe I can broaden or clarify my own research question so that I encompass some of those ideas as well. So I'm going to give you an example here from my own research again. So a couple of years ago, I read an article about the experiences of bullying that nursing students had had in New Zealand universities while they were on their clinical placements. And the data I found so shocking because the extent of the bullying and the type of the bullying was so pervasive, and there were so many experiences from students of this bullying behaviour in different ways, that I started thinking about, well, what is it like in social work in terms of bullying and social work placements? So I thought, I think there's a gap in the literature here, and I did some literature searching, and there wasn't any specific New Zealand research that had been published on that topic. And so then I got talking to some colleagues, and we decided to form a research group, and they're from University of Canterbury and ARA, and we're doing this research now together. So when we first met to talk a bit more about the literature, we had a research assistant do some literature searching for us, so we'd read through some of the literature, not just about social work in other countries, but also around nursing and other human services sorts of professions that we think could kind of relate in terms of students being in social service organisations. Anyway, when we met, we started talking about this idea of bullying, and then we thought about our own kind of interactions that we'd had with students and challenges they'd had on placement. And it wasn't just bullying that we talked about, but it was harassment as well that we had some examples of. So we thought, okay, well, we'll expand from bullying to bullying and harassment. Then we kept talking, and then we also thought about, actually, we know that some students are discriminated against either before their placement is confirmed or during their placement by clients or by colleagues. So we thought, oh, that'd be interesting as well. We'll broaden it out a little bit more. And again, the discrimination had come through some of the literature as well. Then we thought, oh, that's getting a bit unwieldy. Maybe we'll try and just reframe it a little bit to encompass those things, but make it a little bit broader. So we ended up talking about the unfair treatment of students in social work placements. And then as we kept reading, and also as we started developing our ethics application in our survey tool, we changed that terminology again, and the last one is what we've settled on, which is about distress and tension for students in social work placements. And we've decided to keep it broad so that students can actually tell us maybe some of the experiences that they've had that have created distress and tension, rather than us kind of narrowing it too much by focusing, for example, on bullying and harassment. So the literature really helped us think a bit more around the terminology that we were using, and also the parameters of our research as well. So when we're thinking about starting a literature review, it can be a little bit overwhelming. So kind of think, okay, well, what parameters am I going to put around these searches? And generally we do searches through the library, so they're online searches, and we explore different databases that we think might have relevant journal articles or books in. So sometimes a mind map is quite useful, and I've just got this one off the internet around mental health. It's a mental health mind map. So if we were interested in looking at a topic to do with mental health, this could also be a mind map that we use for helping us develop our research question as well. But if we're thinking about mental health and we want to do a literature search, then again, we can just put out different kind of key words around what we're wanting to find out about. So we might, in our search terms, put in something like history mental health, and then we would see what kind of came up from that. Positive psychology as an aspect of mental health could be something else that we're interested in exploring. So usually we keep a really good track of the search terms that we're using, and also the databases that we're using, so we don't end up kind of getting confused or doubling up or ending down different rabbit warrens, which sometimes happens with literature reviews. So mind maps can be quite useful, not just for your developing a research question, but also around your literature review. I like this figure because it just shows us around, we've got the research question. Then on the left-hand side, we do start doing some reading. We have some ideas that might then feed back into that research question, and that research question might evolve a little bit. At the same time as we're doing our reading, we're also thinking about our research question in terms of our methods or our methodology, and how we might conduct our research to be able to get the information or data that we need to be able to answer the research question. And we're going to talk about that more in the next part of the course when we think about quantitative and qualitative methodology. These, what I've got here on this slide is basically just different examples of how we end up synthesising the literature that we get. So you don't need to do anything in particular with this, but I just wanted to give you these as examples of how when we write up a literature review, these are some ways that we may start some of our sentences. So sometimes we make general comments on the relevant literature. So a large and growing body of literature has investigated, and then we'd add some references at the end of that sentence. Sometimes we talk about the methodological approaches that have been taken by other people and other research. So it might be around, you know, it might be mostly quantitative research, and maybe we're going to do qualitative. So that's a good way to justify how our research is a little bit unique or different or will contribute to existing literature. We can also think about what's previously been established or investigated, and we've got some examples there. And sometimes we bring into our sentences the names of the authors, or sometimes we just write about what they've established or said, and then we reference them at the end. One thing with a literature review is that we're not writing solely to sources. So we're not just saying, hey, Anne O'Donoghue in 2016 said da 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 da, and then Maidment et al. 2018 said. What we're trying to do is we're trying to read the different literature and pull out the key ideas or themes, and we actually write to themes. So when I'm writing generally around distress for students on social work placements, one of the key themes that may have come out may be related to bullying. So then I will talk about all the literature that's relevant that links bullying and social work placements together. Or I might bring in some other disciplines if it's talking about placements as well. And then my next theme might be more around the impacts of distress for students. And so then I might go through and I might identify some other literature that has been written around the different types of impacts. So it might be financial impact, for example, causing distress, or it might be emotional harm or physical harm, and they will be some ideas or themes that I will explore and look at a whole range of literature that has talked about that, and then bring that all together in my synthesis. So once we've done our literature review, we've got lots of new ideas. Generally, we'll write that up and have that all kind of there guiding us and underpinning our research. And then the next step is to think about our research methodology and our research design. And two key questions there that will be key for us as we move forward in the course. One, what methodology will help us best answer the research question? And two, what methods are best suited to the methodology and which one will be most useful? So we're going to think about qualitative methodology and quantitative methodology as our two key areas. If we have a research project where we might do some qualitative and some quantitative, we call that mixed methodology. And what we're also going to look at is the different types of methods or research design that fit alongside or underneath each of those methodologies. So that's a quick summary really of literature review, and really important that we understand the literature to know where our topic fits, and also to guide us in terms of our research question, but also then in terms of our methodology moving forward. Kia ora.